The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Shout out to the Coffee Club and everybody out there listening throughout your day today as you get to driving around town and stocking up for this snowmageddon. I guess it kind of depends on where you're at. If you're in the state of Arkansas, you're definitely getting prepared at this point, I guess. I did some of that yesterday, and Fayetteville traffic and the stores and everything, it was stupid out there. Crazy. Be safe out there, people. Make sure you get everything you need. I guess it's going to be a wild one. And it seems, sometimes we hear about this and you hear the buildup all week, and then it's very underwhelming, or nothing happens, or it breaks up, or whatever. But the folks I trust, when I'm looking at my weather, they still seem pretty bullish about it. So we're battening down the hatches over here. Assuming the internet stays on, or the electricity for that matter, this show ain't going nowhere during all the weather craziness. So just so you know, it's going to continue to go down here, the Pod at the Palace. Also, before we get started, shout out to our buddy Finch, one of our own. He's taking one for the team today, and I'm not going to get into his business, and he's going to be just fine, but we're thinking about you. Got a little something that he's got going on today, and good luck, and we hope that you're able to get back to it soon, buddy. And man, a few of our listeners have kind of been going through it a little bit lately. Got some bumps and bruises and ailments. We're kind of in the grind, like SEC basketball season, right? Like at this stage, nobody's 100%. I feel that's how that's kind of how the Coffee Club is right now, man. We got to get back to our top end game here. Keep fighting the good fight, my friends. Hang in there. We got a fun show lined up for you here today. We're going to check out, this revamped resume for Arkansas and look at some seeding and bracketology talk, have a little bit of fun with some things after Arkansas's big win over Vanderbilt. I've got some, what I think are very, very interesting numbers to share with you guys as it pertains to Arkansas's defense, as well as John Calipari's offense this year from an historic perspective. Also want to talk about that nonsense that Nate Oats has pulled and why it makes me hope that John Calipari really does go all in on freshmen to kind of take a stand and make a point against the wrong way that college basketball appears to be trending. So let's get into it. Shout out to our sponsors for today's episode, our friends over at Drain Masters of Arkansas. Drain Masters are officially licensed in plumbing and drain cleaning while serving the River Valley, Northwest Arkansas, Oklahoma, and beyond. They're ready to handle all plumbing and drain cleaning needs with professional, reliable service. To request a service, give them a call today, 479-646-5585, or you can scan the QR code there on your screen. You can also like their Facebook page at Drain Masters, Inc. Be sure to tell them that Inside Arkansas sent you and get 10% off all their services. Anything and everything plumbing related. No job is too big or too small. Drain Masters of Arkansas has you covered. By the way, be on the lookout Monday of next week. We'll have Inside SEC Basketball Live, of course, but I'm going to be joining analytics guru Evan Miyakawa. Ball knowers know all about evanmia.com. And we talk so much about KenPom and Torvik and all those different metrics and analytics sites. And Evan Mia he's an up-and-comer. He's the next big thing, and he's really doing a heck of a job. His website is awesome, and he has started a new show where he dives into all the analytics and the metrics and the numbers of college basketball, and he's kind of been doing a tour of several different teams, and he asked me to join him and talk Razorback basketball and their resume and lineup combinations and all that good stuff. So I'm doing that. Really excited about it, and be sure to check it out. I'll share with you guys the link and the information when I know exactly when that's coming out, but be on the lookout for that Monday. Should be a lot of fun. Also, I know a lot of folks are wondering about this LSU game on Saturday with the weather. And it's crazy out here. I saw that Memphis women's basketball, they were scheduled to play mid-afternoon on Saturday, and they've already bumped their game up to Friday. So, a lot of people are wondering, well, is Arkansas going to do that? What about some of these other schools? I've been talking to a few folks over at the U of A. LSU should absolutely be in Fayetteville before things start to get dicey. And as long as that's the case, they have every single intention to play basketball Saturday night at the scheduled time, even if they have to hoof it from the Graduate to get over there. So I would kind of bank on that. And I mean, unless things deteriorate so much on Friday or early Saturday that it's just like they don't have a choice, or the Tigers didn't make it to town for some reason. They can't play early because gymnastics has Bud Walton Arena Friday. They can't play Sunday because, well, there's a women's basketball game. You could maybe do a doubleheader, but the Hogs travel Monday to go to Norman, and they have to have that mandated day off from the NCAA too. So that doesn't really seem like a very viable option. The only other spot, if they had to reschedule, would be Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week, the first week of February, which just so happens to be the bye, the midweek bye. Every team gets one in the SEC now for both Arkansas and LSU. But I'm anticipating basketball at Bud Walton Arena on Saturday. If both teams are there and they get at least 2 of the 3 officials there, they're going to play. Is pretty much exactly what I've been told. So we'll see kind of how the weather looks, over the course of the next couple of days. Obviously, we'll keep you updated on anything that we hear, but I don't know, man. Like if you live in town and you have a 4-wheel drive, come on over if you want to risk it. Otherwise, students, bundle up and get your butts to Bud Walton Arena. This one is for you. It wasn't that long ago that Arkansas and LSU played a snow game. And I remember one against Texas A&M. I remember one against Florida during the Musselman years. They just kind of closed down the upper deck and they packed the lower bowl, and it winds up being a pretty neat, intimate little atmosphere. Some of the most fun games I've covered have been, under these circumstances. So yeah, you would love it. I mean, it's a finite number of home games that you get in the SEC, and this is a Saturday, and you'd love to just pack 19,000 in Bud and really overwhelm LSU, but it can still be cool and loud and rowdy. And, if you're thinking it's going to take away from your home court advantage, well, they're the ones that have to travel and all this nonsense and deal with all that. So, and if it's just basketball team against basketball team, Arkansas's got this one covered. So, like I said, we'll keep you updated, but as of now, they aren't really thinking about anything other than tipping off 7:30 Saturday against LSU. Moving on. I think anyone who watched the Vandy game with their own 2 eyes could see that, like, the changes to the starting lineup not only paid off in terms of Arkansas getting out to a better start, which was the entire point, but the whole rotation just felt so much more balanced. But since I have access to it, I just wanted to quickly share some of the numbers on the lineup combinations that we did see. The starting lineup of Acuff, Malik Thomas, Carter Knox, Trevin Brazile, and Nick Pringle actually just played the second most possessions. They started the game, but they played the second most possessions total, but they were also the most effective for the Hogs. That makes sense if you think about how well they started. They were +8 in their plus-minus rating out there. It felt like they really set the tone with their defense, right? Sometimes Arkansas comes out and they just fire off a bunch of threes, and they hit a bunch of shots, and they can build up a lead, but what did they hold Vanderbilt? 1 for their first 9 from the field, and that adds up. That starting group had a defensive rating of 31.4, means that what that translates to is they would allow 31.4 points per 100 possessions. That's what they were on track for, which is absurd, on their time on the floor together. That's in the 100th percentile nationally. So they crushed it. That group did on defense. On offense, they were really just okay. 115.1 offensive rating, which I think on a typical night, that combination of players would be a little bit better than that. The lineup that actually played the most possessions and minutes together was just switching out the 5, right? So Acuff, Leak, Carter, TB, and then Malik Ewan. And that group was in the 97th percentile offensively. They were really cooking. Does that surprise anybody? It shouldn't. Think about those 5. It's probably, arguably your best 5 offensive players. Defensively, not so much. They were at 134.2. That was down in the 11th percentile. Obviously, any lineup that doesn't have DJ or Billy or Pringle, arguably your best 3, like your best guard defender, your best wing defender, and your best post defender, if they're not in there, it's not going to be as good defensively. But I think part of that number is due to when Ewan checked in the first time. Remember how rough it was for him defensively, like that first few minutes. So it took him a little while to get locked in. So you want to see him improve on that for sure. But if you want to know why that was down, on a night where Arkansas played really, really well defensively. It was that stretch where they kind of lost their way a little bit. But, man, it's about as potent as it gets offensively. They had a couple small ball lineups that graded out really well. DJ, Leak, Carter, Billy, and Malik Ewan had a plus 44.4 net rating. That's a group that was unguardable offensively, not great on defense, but they only played like 3 minutes together. So small sample size alert, obviously. But if you're thinking about, with this new look lineup, what could some of these combinations be that they turn to throughout the course of games, depending on matchups? And it gives you just a little bit of context for what you might get. I really like seeing Acuff and Wagner sharing the backcourt together. And, there were times there where DJ was initiating. You were able to slide Acuff off the ball. They had one group that was Wagner, Acuff, and then you have both your wings, Carter and Billy, and then Malik Ewan. And that group they didn't play a ton together, but they had skyrocketed production levels on both ends. So while they were out there, it looked really good. Now, my point is, I love Trevor Brazile, and he will play a ton, but I am becoming more and more intrigued with some of these small ball looks that Arkansas can throw at teams. I've kind of been a proponent all year of, I really wish Arkansas would have got another four-man that they could rely on a little bit in the rotation. That way, when Trevin does come out of the game, they're not forced to go super small. And we've seen some matchups where they really can't afford to do it. The Tennessee game really stands out to me, where it was like, all right, Trev, man, you're just going to have to play every single minute, every second that you can, because we're in a disadvantageous position if we've got to go with the small ball and play Carter at the 4. No disrespect to Carter. He was awesome last night, but when you got to defend Jalen Carey for, 15 minutes or something, that could be problematic. But in a lot of matchups, they don't have to worry about that. They certainly didn't against Vanderbilt. And, like the Billy Carter on the floor together combo, it's pretty tasty. So at any rate, just something to keep an eye on. For the game, Arkansas posted a 141.0 offensive rating. That's in the top percentile nationally. That tracks with what you saw from the Razorbacks with all their stats. Defense, again, you're playing a top 5 offensive group in the country. Arkansas's defensive rating was 103.1. That's 82nd percentile for a game. That's pretty darn good given the competition that they faced there. Okay, post-Vanderbilt resume update. What did it do, that win for you? Things are really starting to take shape here. Let me pull up Arkansas's resume, their team sheet from Warren Nolan. We were pulling this up for a little while back. And, it's funny because Arkansas, remember when they beat up on South Carolina last week, or I guess it was last week, and they jumped up 10 spots in the net, and it was really good stuff for them. And so I think a lot of people probably expected, well, shoot, they just beat a better team by just as much. Man, they might be top 10. They're going to jump like crazy. Well, the higher up you get, the better the teams are that you have to pass. So maybe it wasn't as pronounced as people thought they were, but still some really good stuff that came out of this. Arkansas pops up 4 spots in the net rankings to number 20. So you got a top 20, all put together resume there. And you can see, like Arkansas, that was obviously a big quadrant 1A win for them. 4 quad 1 wins. All their losses are in the first quadrant. So no real blemishes there. You can take you can take all the quad 1 losses you want. You can have a couple quad 2 losses, and it's not a big deal at all. What you want to avoid is the Q3s and the Q4s, right? And Arkansas has gone without a blemish there so far, and that's why this thing is really starting to look pretty good for them. What you'll see, though, is they've just got 5 wins in the first 2 quadrants. That's something that, when you're wondering, like, well, why isn't Arkansas higher, man? They got, 4 quad 1 wins and, this and that and margin of victory. They should be a higher seed. What's going on? That's it right now. We talked about this a little bit, but they need to flesh out that resume some more. LSU coming in here is a quad 2 game. Oklahoma on the road, that might be a quad 1. It could be a quad 2. Either way, Kentucky coming into town. If Arkansas handles their business here over the course of the next week or two, all of a sudden you're going to see this resume take on an entirely different life. So they're not in a bad spot here. Looking at all the different metrics for Arkansas, first of all, it says on here that the KPI is at 29. And I went and looked before I started recording here, and it's bumped up. It's at 24. So Arkansas is actually up there pretty good. What this means is Arkansas is inside the top 25 in every single metric now. So all that preseason bias that was baked into the predictives like KenPom and Torvik and BPI, it's out of there. And you're in a good spot. 23rd at BPI, 21 at both KenPom and Torvik. That's very solid. And then the results-based metrics, obviously they love it when you continue to pick off these good wins. And that KPI, which was, remember how it was like 30 spots off from everything else for the longest? And we were like, how the heck does Arkansas figure this thing out? Finally, it's starting to catch up. And then you're top 20 in both strength of record and wins above bubble. Arkansas is putting together a really, really solid resume right now that profiles, frankly, as a 5 seed with room to grow. Okay. So let's look at some of the reasons why this is improving for Arkansas. I want to pull up, which page do I want to pull up here? Let's just pull up the normal. Yeah, the standard KenPom page, as you can see there. There's a lot to like on this. A lot to like on this for Arkansas. Improvement literally everywhere here for the Hogs. So, and they've got their projections on there. We'll talk about that in a second, but we'll actually do our own here in a minute. But, you know, a top 10 offense in the country, you know, in at number 5, that's a great place to be, man. And it makes sense. And I'll add a little bit of context to that here in a few minutes, but you know, it's been a while since we've seen an offense like this. In fact, we haven't seen an offense like this really in the KenPom era. Arkansas is really scoring it at an impressive level. And, you know, they got that assisted turnover figured out the other night. They continue to shoot it at a high clip, top 20 in the country from 3. Is this the Razorback team we know and love? It feels weird. It feels a little bit different, doesn't it? They're still playing at great pace, finishing around the rim, knocking down their free throws up to 76%. Remember when we were worried about that a little bit? And, you know, they've had a couple turnover games there, but still 12th in the country in turnover percentage allowed. So you love to see it. What I'm really encouraged by is they moved up 14 spots in defensive efficiency. They were down at 63rd before this game against Vanderbilt. That's wild behavior. So getting that back inside the top 50, I think, is very notable. If you think about Arkansas's next few games here, they've got some opportunities to continue to improve on that. Can we look up when Arkansas gets to that bye week and we flip the calendar to February and maybe you have an Arkansas defense that could be inside the top 40? Because then you're really talking. And it's certainly possible. Arkansas doing a great job of defending without fouling. They're pushing top 25 status there in free throw attempts per field goal attempt allowed, which is a good place to be there for them. Profiling good with block shots. They've gotten better about turning teams over a little bit more. That was something that they ranked low in. The steal percentage still inside the top 100. So I like a lot of what we're seeing here from Arkansas. If you look on the right-hand column, though, that's obviously got all the results, but then it has the projections the rest of the way. And you see projected record has Arkansas at 22-9, 12-6 in SEC play. I believe that's at least a 2-game improvement from where Arkansas was coming into league play. I think they had them at 10-8 coming into it. And that just felt kind of low, didn't it? But as your resume improves, remember these are predictives. And so the better you play, the more efficient you are. That stuff is all subject to change. And so they've got Arkansas taking 4 more losses the rest of the way, which it's contradictory to what you see if you go look at that. But it's also taken into account that they know throughout the course of the season this thing's going to continue to ebb and flow, and there's going to be some variance. And some of these games are pretty close to listed as a pick 'em. But right now, if you look at it, Arkansas has how many games left? They're 14, 5, 19, 12 games in the regular season, and they're only projected at KenPom to lose 2 of them. At Alabama, which is a 4-point margin projected, and then at Florida, a 7-point margin projected. We obviously look at those and see that those are Arkansas's 2 most difficult games left on the schedule, but got them 8-point favorites against LSU at home, 4-point favorites at Oklahoma, 6-point favorites at home against Kentucky, 7-point road favorites at Mississippi State. I hope so. They stink, but that's a weird place to go play. Arkansas was projected to lose this game at LSU for the longest. That's finally flipped, which I guaranteed you it would, into Arkansas's favor there. Get back game. We got Arkansas as 6-point favorites against Auburn at home, 10-point favorites against Missouri at home, 8-point favorites against a good Texas A&M team at home. I think they're starting to figure out that Arkansas is good in their own building. I want to say that they were also projected to lose to Missouri on the road to close the regular season, and Arkansas is a 4-point road favorite in that game now. So this thing started looking pretty good here. We're going to do our own projections here in a few minutes, but here's what's interesting. Arkansas, we just kind of went through some of their offensive numbers there, and it's looking good, right? We were hoping that, they would figure some things out offensively, because it felt like that was the end of the floor that's held them back a little bit in the tournament. And I mean, they have a national title caliber offense this year. And it's tough scenes for, the bunch that we're saying John Calipari's offense is archaic and he hasn't modernized. He's not embracing the analytics. His team still shoot mid-range jumpers. He still likes to throw it into the post. Why is he still running floppy? The dribble drive is antiquated. All these things. And you look up and they're top 10 in the country in offense. And here's what's really interesting. This team, and there's still games left to be played. I fully understand that. But this Razorback team, if the season ended today, it would have the highest offensive efficiency, highest offensive rating of a John Calipari coach team in this century, in the 2000s. Maybe he had one back in the day at UMass. I don't know. But you can see right there on your screen. You go look at it. Arkansas adjusted offensive efficiency, 126.9. That's as good as it gets. Remember how good that Kentucky team was his last year offensively with Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd, and they were hitting all those threes, and I mean they were really good. That was just at 122.2. Arkansas significantly higher than that. The year the Final Four team in 2015 that he had, 121.3. Again, Arkansas is at 126.9 right now. The 2012 national title team, offensive efficiency, 122.2. This current Arkansas team, more efficient on the offensive end of the floor than that national title team. Now, of course, we could do this with defensive efficiency, and we would wind up having a little bit of a different conversation. So my point is, when I say things like Arkansas just needs to be above average defensively to really give themselves a shot here, it's because they do have the type of offense that could get them to great heights this season. But that was wild to me. Shout out to my buddy Swish for throwing that at me the other day about Cal's offense here and how good they are. It's funny. And I mentioned, this is the other thing that's hilarious to me that I want to get into next is this defense that we were just talking about. Now it's holding Arkansas back, and man, they got to take a step forward, and they do. And we know there's still room for improvement. We saw how they defended against Vanderbilt, and that's got to be the new standard, at least from an effort standpoint. And if they can come close to that on a regular basis, they're going to be right where they need to be at the end of the season. But we've all been so up in arms about this team on the defensive end of the floor. All this consternation, pissing and moaning, me included. And if you look up right now, and I'll pull up the graphic to you, that way you can see it. In SEC play, in conference games, conference-only defense, Arkansas ranks third in the league in adjusted defensive efficiency. Third. After all this, you think about the Auburn game. You think about that Georgia game. Going and letting the not good offense at Ole Miss, they wound up getting 87 for you. You look up here, and we're 6 games into this thing. We're a third of the way into the conference play, and Arkansas's third in this league in adjusted defensive efficiency. Now, we could look at this one of two ways, right? Maybe we'll look at it both. We'll say it's a little bit of both. One, maybe Arkansas's defense isn't as bad as we've been saying. We just been used to a pretty high standard around here. So maybe it's not quite that bad. Maybe they really are trending in the right direction. The other way we could look at it is, damn, the SEC don't play any defense, man. And I think that's got something to do with it too, because I know that the SEC is the highest scoring high major conference in the country. So is it because there's really good offenses? It's like the NBA. It's just hard to guard teams in this league. Maybe. I don't know. But I thought that was something. I expected to pull it up, and I was like, like after that Vanderbilt game, maybe Arkansas is kind of pushing up towards top 10 status. Could they be in the middle of the pack? And so I started my eyes started at the bottom. I was like, oh, Vanderbilt's all the way down there. That makes sense after last night. Go keep looking up. Did I miss them? Let me go back. No. All the way up there at number 3, man. That's pretty impressive. Why is that the case? If you kind of look like the numbers inside the numbers, we talked about Arkansas getting a little bit better about turning teams over. That 17.4 turnover percentage defensively is 3rd in league play. They're only allowing offensive rebounds on 28.6% of possessions. That's 3rd right now in the conference. Remember how concerned we all were about that earlier in the year? But, think about it in league play. Like they played the Tennessee team. It's really good on the offensive glass, and they shut that stuff down. Did a great job with it. And even in the loss against Auburn, Auburn's, I think, the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the league. Believe it or not, them or Florida, are top 2 there. And Arkansas did a good job keeping them off the glass. So limiting teams to 1 shot, not fouling, number 2 in the conference, and keeping teams off of the free throw line. And then block percentage, Arkansas number 1 in SEC games in block percentage. And so you got to give a big assist to like Billy Richmond, right? And Carter's blocking some shots, like Arkansas's guards getting involved there. It was nice to see Trevin get a couple, but I think we got to give Malik Ewan his flowers here from a rim protection standpoint, because he's gotten a lot better from that standpoint for Arkansas. Don't you think? So anyway, I hope y'all found that as interesting as I did, because I didn't expect that to be the case. An elite John Calipari offense at this stage of his career, like relative to, think about some of the teams he's had and some of the players he's had. And then look at where Arkansas is at right now. Again, you've got a dozen more SEC games to play, but y'all think they're just going to stop scoring? So with the defense that this league plays, which we just pointed out, he might be onto something here. What if Arkansas winds up with the top defense in the league in conference games? I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, I thought that was fascinating. Another thing here. We had a question. I had a question on Twitter from one of our listeners, Miss Lindsay. Appreciate that question. She was curious about Arkansas's highest dunk total of the season. Like was the other night, or the record for him this season. Well, that was 16 dunks against Jackson State. If you guys remember that night. Arkansas dunked it 16 times against that team. So that's the high water mark. The other night against Vanderbilt, 13 was the second highest that they've had. And they also had a dozen against South Carolina. So Arkansas's had some big dunk games, big dunk energy. Gotta be careful saying that, don't you? That kind of got me into a little bit of a rabbit hole. I was doing some research because I was looking at all that. And there's still a ways to go for the single season record. If Arkansas wanted to get there, obviously, you got it. Basically, Arkansas right now, they're at 120 dunks on the season. That's awesome. If you're a casual fan of basketball, you probably like threes and slam dunks. And Arkansas does a lot of both of those. So that they're probably fun to watch for people. 120 dunks. So Arkansas is actually now past North Carolina. So the Hogs are second in the country. They're 6 dunks behind Georgia. So they're making up ground because they were like 25 behind them for the longest. And as far as like program history stuff, I was able to track this stat back to 2010. So, 15, 16 years. And Arkansas is 120 dunks right now. And that's with that worst 14 games left. So 12 regular season, 1 SEC tournament, 1 NCAA tournament. So at worst 14 games left. And this Arkansas team already ranks as fourth most over that time frame in dunks in a season. So they're high flying. Last season, shout out to Dude Thero, Arkansas's high watermark, 166 they had. I think that's within reach for them this year. They had 160 the Ricky Council, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh that year with all those guys. I kept going back because I thought, maybe with some of those, talented forwards that Arkansas has had, they had some big years, but like they had 144 and 123 in Daniel Gafford's 2 seasons. And he didn't have a whole lot of dunkers around him. And I was actually surprised to see that the Bobby Portis, Michael Qualls tandem was only able to get 98 dunks in their year. I thought that would be higher. Literally nobody besides those two was dunking on that basketball team. So, what are you going to do? Who's Arkansas's leader right now? I'm guessing it's probably Ewan at this point. It's either him or TB. It would be nailed it. Malik Ewan, 28 dunks. Trevin Brazil, 27. Shout out to Nick Pringle, 24. Billy and Carter both have 13. DJ Wagner has 5. Darius Acuff with 6. Malik Thomas with 2. And shout out to Isaiah Sealy with 2 dunks for Arkansas. Everybody in the rotation has been throwing it down a little bit. What we need before the end of the year is an Elmer dunk. Maybe he gets it Saturday against LSU. That'd be pretty cool. Would be pretty cool with me. Okay. Let me get rid of a couple things from my queue here. I had so many screenshots and graphics and stuff pulled up that it's crowding my page. It's cramping my style. Okay. Let's do a little bit of NCAA tournament forecasting, shall we? Why the heck not? What else do we have to do? Going over to barttorvik.com, the closer we get to tournament time, the more you'll hear me reference the stuff over at this website. I promised myself I'm going to wait until February 1st. I'm waiting until we get to February before I start doing this every other day on this show. I couldn't hold off anymore. Like, we got an extra day between games. I had to do it. But over at Torvik, Arkansas's NCAA tournament odds, 99.9%. So take a deep breath. It's all going to be okay. The seed projection for Arkansas sits at 5.1. And they actually have Arkansas with a 7% chance to reach a Final Four and a 1.4% to cut down the net. So you're saying there's a chance. How about that? Now, if you guys remember this, they've got the simulator over at Torvik. It allows us to pick the games the rest of the way, any combination of wins and losses, and just kind of see where that lands us. So what I want to try to do, I'm going to try to share my screen. It's been a while since I've done this, so bear with me for a second. And if I can, we'll go through this together and project it. So, all right, let me see. Share screen, Torvik. Share it, and then voila. I think my microphone's still on. I hope so. Anyway, I got Arkansas's page pulled up here at Torvik. It's pretty cool stuff, man. You can go through and look at it. Over on that right-hand side, they kind of project out like Arkansas currently 4-5 in quad 1 games. They only project them to be at 5-7, like to get one more. And that's the thing. Like, there's not as many quad 1 opportunities this year as there has been in past years. Yeah, it was like every game last season, but that's different this year. I think they'll ultimately wind up with more than the 5. But the crazy thing about it, remember how we talked about adding, some meat to the bone there, beefing up the resume a little bit. Right now, Arkansas 1-0 in quad 2 games. They have them projected to be 7-2 by the end of the season. So a lot of those, tier 1A or second tier games for Arkansas. And, if they get through this and they've got 12 wins in the first 2 quadrants, and, that would be what, 12-9 in those. Yeah. I mean, that's a 4 or 5 seed type of profile there. We'll talk in a minute about maybe Arkansas's path to being able to get through and get a little bit higher. But let's see. You go to the Funalytics. Actually, no. We can do it from right here. At the middle there, if you go to Teamcast, show you guys how to do this. That way you can do it on your own if you ever decide that you want to. And it pulls up, and you can see all of Arkansas's results, like all the games right there, which is cool. And then you can pick the rest of them and submit it to see what it would look like. And so right now it just kind of goes based off the projections, which they have the exact same, which would be Arkansas losing to Bama and losing to Florida, both of those games on the road. So we'll give them those, and I'm gonna pick Arkansas to lose another one, just because I think they probably will. Like, they're gonna slip at some point. If you really want to know what I think is gonna happen, I think Arkansas is gonna lose 3 more games this season in the regular season. I think they're gonna win one of Florida or Alabama. Like, John Calipari every year gets one of these road wins that he's just not expected to get. It's almost a guarantee, and those would be the only 2 that really qualify. So I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to lose another stupid one somewhere on the road. We can decide which one that's going to be. Maybe a couple. At this point, after they got through Vanderbilt, the way that they looked, I have a hard time seeing them lose at home. I mean, they could. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the atmospheres that you're going to have, they're going to be really hard to beat. But it wouldn't be crazy for Auburn to do it. It wouldn't be crazy for Kentucky to do it. Who else do they have? A&M has played really well on the road. Like, they could slip up somewhere, and it wouldn't be like this catastrophic event or whatever. I'm not going to project that to happen right here, though. The way they're playing at home, it would be silly to do that. But let's see. LSU, we think they're going to win that game. Oklahoma, are we going to pick that to be the weird road loss? I'm not. I just feel like they're going to be so aware of everything that's been going on, they're just not going to let that happen. Oklahoma stinks right now. We're going to call it a win. Kentucky at home, win. Mississippi State, man, they look bad. It's such a weird place for Arkansas to play, though. Who else would we have here? It would either be them or Missouri or LSU. Yeah, well, maybe we'll pick the LSU one. Let's see, LSU, they damn near popped Kentucky over there. They just beat – who they just beat? Missouri in there. Deaton Thomas will be healthy by that point. You will have just played them. Maybe that'll be the one that we do. So win there at Mississippi State. We'll call it a loss to LSU. And you could pick any one of these for that other random road game. Get back game against Auburn. I like it. Alabama, sure. You got your professional basketball player back on your team. Congratulations. We'll talk about that in a minute. Home against Missouri, dub against A&M, loss at Florida, win at Texas, and then win in here. So this would have Arkansas finishing 13-5. That's kind of where we had them when we did our preseason or our pre-SEC things there. So submit it. Let her warm up a little bit. That would have Arkansas at 23-8, 13-5 overall. And as we scroll down, still has Arkansas as a 5 seed. Isn't that something? Still has Arkansas as a 5 seed. The last 5 seed, according to this. The Louisville thing's crazy to me. And by the way, if we want to talk about, places where like the teams that Arkansas could pass, who is vulnerable for Arkansas to pass in terms of seeding? Because some of these teams, they feel pretty locked in here, but not all of them. And we could do it based off of this, but I'm actually going to take you guys, if it'll let me, over to the bracket matrix, which that was updated yesterday. So this probably won't have into account. No, it won't have into account Arkansas's win over Vanderbilt. That's okay, though, because you see them still as a 5 seed, projected 5 seed there. So if we look at these teams right above them, like who is ripe for the picking in terms of passing them on those seed lines, I think Clemson's live for that. I think they benefited from their schedule so far, but they still get Duke, they still get Carolina. They just lost to NC State. They're going to take some losses there, and I think this is a team that Arkansas could get past on the seed line. Kansas, we'll see. It's kind of up to Darren Peterson, I think, but they seem like a vulnerable team. The Big 12, here's the thing with the Big 12. You look at Kansas, they're really good. Texas Tech, BYU even up here. there's a lot of these teams in the Big 12 that you feel like could be a top 2 seed, but they all play each other. They're all just going to beat the hell out of each other, and somebody's going to accumulate quite a bit of losses there. So who can you get from that group, right? Can Arkansas pass any of these teams that are currently projected ahead of them in the SEC, Alabama and Florida that you see up there as 4 seeds? To me, if you go pop one of them in their home building and, make some moves there, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. Florida seems like they're starting to separate from the pack. They're trending in the right direction. Alabama still feels kind of volatile to me. So maybe that's one you could get. Virginia, I think, is live for Arkansas to be able to get up there and catch. So, yeah, there's Vanderbilt for sure, especially after yesterday's result. Remember, like this will update. This usually updates, I think, on like Wednesdays, and then as we get further along, it'll be like pre-weekend, so maybe on Friday, and then again early in the week. So, it's going to be ever flowing here. But, Arkansas has got a real shot to work their way into, a top 4 seed, protected seed there. And it's just a matter of, whether or not they, frankly, handle their business on the road. I mean, we feel pretty good about where Arkansas is at from a home standpoint, but they've got to be able to play a little bit better on the road. And if they do that, they could be up there in a pretty good spot. And it's not unprecedented. I mean, Eric Musselman, he had a 3 seed, he had a 4 seed, and then he was, hanging out in that 8-9 range for a minute there. But hell, they were a 10 seed last year. They made it to the Sweet 16. At any rate, a shout out to our newest sponsors, by the way, at the Pot the Palace. It's our friends over at Mad Labs. Mad Labs is a small independent code studio that does custom websites and web apps, internal tools, dashboards, admin systems, and so much more. They're a great fit for small businesses and teams with existing software that, maybe they could use a little bit of help cleaning up or modernizing their website or their app. Or it could be for business founders who want to build something properly the first time, do it right out of the gates. They focus on software that's built carefully and holds up over time. They help you move beyond the Wix and the Squarespace and those type of builders. And, when those tools start to feel a little bit too limiting for you, this is where Mad Labs really comes in handy. If you or your business is looking to build out or revamp a website or an app, let Mad Labs take care of you with their focus on software that's built carefully and holds up over time. Take advantage of our special Inside Arkansas offer by scanning the QR code on your screen for a free 30-minute strategy call, and let Mad Labs get you on the way to the custom look you're looking for with your business. Shout out to our man Sharkansas, doing some good things over there for sure. Okay. It's going to be one of them hour-long episodes, folks. How about it? I don't know why I saved this for the end. I get into the analytics stuff, and I start nerding out a little bit, and I lose track of time. It's okay, though. Leave it to Nate Oates to be the guy who lacks self-awareness and has zero ability to read the room. The room being the landscape of college basketball and the coaching fraternity of which he represents. This Charles Bediako thing is insane. And listen, I'm not going to spend too much time here clutching my pearls or completely crashing out on this because, one, I did it Wednesday on Inside Arkansas Live. Go check that out if you want to. But also, I want to tie this into what it means for Arkansas and what this means for John Calipari. But in case you aren't familiar, I mean, you remember we've discussed it a lot on the live show and here on this podcast, the James Najee situation at Baylor, the kid who was drafted and he didn't make an NBA team. He's been in the G League. Now all of a sudden he's eligible. He's playing college basketball at Baylor, and it threw everybody for a loop. Tom Izzo, Cal, several coaches spoke out on it and took exception to it, including Alabama's Nate Oates, who at the time pointed out how doing things like this, it can take opportunities away from high school players, which apparently or allegedly at the time meant something to him as a former high school coach himself. Really cool how, where Oates started and what he's worked himself up to. So I get it. That seems like something that he would champion. But you fast forward a couple of weeks to the present, and you think about something else that he said. during that press conference when he was discussing the James Najee thing, which was, if they're going to allow this, if they're going to make it legal, then I probably have to embrace it, because if I don't go get these kids, everybody else is going to. It's interesting that he said that, because now we know that behind the scenes the entire time they were working on getting, one of these exact replicas of a situation. So one of his former players, 7-foot big man Charles Bediako, is now doing the exact same thing to an even more extreme level. And if that name sounds, like vaguely familiar to you, like, oh man, who is that? Why? It's I feel like I can see him, but I don't really remember. It's because he's nearly 3 years removed from suiting up for the Crimson Tide. He played 2 years at Alabama. And in case you're wondering, Charles Bediako's sophomore season was the Brandon Miller year over there. This dude played against Kamani Johnson and Trey Wade and Jalen Williams and Chris Likes when he played against Arkansas. He was teammates with guys like Jaden Shackelford and J.D. Davison. He announced that he was going to forego his remaining college eligibility after the 22-23 season. And in case you aren't sure what that means you're giving up your college eligibility. You're relinquishing it. It is gone because you now want to play basketball professionally. He declared for the draft. He didn't get selected, and he's been bouncing around since. He signed 3 professional contracts between 2-way deals, Exhibit 10 contracts. He's been on 3 separate G League rosters. Now, after being initially denied regaining his eligibility by the NCAA, he's put a case on him and was awarded a temporary restraining order, which means he is now cleared and expected to play against Tennessee on Saturday. And then he has a hearing next Tuesday in which he may well be shot down and will have become a 1-game mercenary for Nate Oats and the Tide. That is wild, wild stuff. I had a little bit of sympathy towards, like, even the Najee situation. There's some of these kids with, like, the G League Ignite program, the Overtime Elite, their post-grad program, where, you're instead of doing the one and done thing in college, you could do 1 year post high school in those programs, those developmental programs, and then go straight to the pro. You don't have to mess around with college or whatever. And some of those things just shut down, and it put a good amount of kids in a tough spot. So they really didn't have a choice but to just declare for the draft and see what happened. And for those kids who weren't able to take advantage of those opportunities, and they realize, man, this is a mistake, or I didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of this, and man, I feel like I got screwed over. I want to go back and do it right. And if it falls within the statute of limitations and they want to come back and play college ball and they haven't done that before, I don't like it. I mean, you be in professional development. You sign professional contract. Like it just, there needs to be some common sense approach. Like, hey, yeah, we're not going to do that, but I at least understand it to a degree. This I don't. This I do not. You've already done it, and you decided you didn't want to do it anymore, and you tried your hand in a professional career. It didn't work out for you, and now you're trying to come back. Do-over. So guys who were selected in the NBA draft can come back and play college ball. Guys who played college ball for multiple years and have gone pro for 3 years and didn't hack it can come back and play college ball. 24-year-old Europeans who played in pro leagues over there for half a decade can come play college ball. This has all just kind of become one big joke. And maybe Nate Oats wiping his ass publicly with the NCAA and their laughable enforcement arm could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and we actually come to some common sense consensus on who should and should not be playing college basketball. Like, this is not a deal about being inclusive or whatever. There's got to be some criteria here that makes sense. We're stretching the boundaries too far. Now, whatever. Bediako's a nice player. I think you can approach this wild, wild west in one of two ways. And one of them is not going to be, well, they'll eventually get it figured out. Well, are they? Will they? They created this monster, and now they're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube with this, with NIL, with rev share, the clearinghouse, the transfer portal. They've created a monster, and they're not going to be able to tame it. But I think you can approach it in one of two ways right now. If you're into that kind of thing, you can be like Scott Drew at Baylor, or even more so like Nate Oates at Alabama, where you might not like it, but if you can take advantage of it, you will, to give your program whatever competitive advantage you can. You are paid to win games, or you can run your program with what you feel like is more integrity, or the way that a college basketball program is supposed to be run, which is what John Calipari will do at Arkansas. And let me be clear, because I can already think of a few regulars in our chat who I love, but who are going to be screaming from the mountaintops at Cal for not adding some G League dropout to this team. John Calipari will not do this. It's not happening. And I'm telling you right now, Saturday night after Arkansas beats LSU, he will be teeing off in his press conference about this again. And he doesn't have to do this to crush it at Arkansas. Nobody has to go this route to be a top-tier program. It's not like, all of a sudden you can get guys who are in the G League, and if you don't do that, then you're going to get left behind. Oh, yeah, you're screwed. These are the teams that are going to go cut down the nets. No, I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, I would argue that if you feel the need to like skirt the rules or stretch the boundaries like this or whatever, you are chasing something that you know you can't obtain. So, we can talk about like the purity of the game and like what makes college basketball great. And I agree with all that stuff. It's my favorite sport. It's near and dear to my heart. So yeah, I'm a traditionalist from that standpoint, but I understand that things evolve and modernize, whatever. But you don't have to fall into this spiral of insanity right now to still be a great college basketball program. Do I wish John Calipari would embrace the portal more than he does? Yeah, sure I do. Y'all know that. But do I want him plucking somebody from the Maine Celtics in January? No, I don't think that's how this works. I don't think it's how it should work. And frankly, I don't think it sends a good message to recruits or your current roster when you feel the need to do that. And this is why I actually hope that John Calipari goes all the way in and empties the clip on this freshman class to try and see if he can't prove a point. Let Nate Oates keep the kids who can't cut it in the G League at 24 years old. Cal's going to go get the dudes who are going in the lottery next June. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. When Cal gets on his soapbox about I'm recruiting freshmen, I'm going to do this with young kids, portal bad, transfer bad, I've rolled my eyes. I have, for sure. I think there's a place for both, and I think you need balance, but screw it. Go back to your roots, man. Go get 6 or 7 freshmen. Let's ride. Why not? Why not? I'd root for it. And honestly, for a guy who's kind of been villainized for his one-and-done approach and so many things, we know the story, the narrative around Cal. I think that he could capture the hearts of the nation if he did it the old school way. It's risky. We know that. He talks about it all the time. My 18-year-old's playing against a 26-year-old with a beard and a family and an alimony, all that, whatever. But I hope that he loads up on these freshmen, and I hope they kick butt next year. Arkansas has J.J. Andrews, a 5-star, and Abdou Toure, who very well may be one the next update because he has been incredible this season. Have y'all seen him recently? Dude's looking like a slightly smaller Adu Thero with a J. He's gotten better. He might wind up being a burger boy. JJ Wood, I don't know what that's going to look like, though, because of his injury. And that stinks. But he was tracking towards it. His ranking's going to be up there to justify it, but has he played enough his senior year here? They'll be announcing that fairly soon. We'll see. I hope he gets it. But both those guys are great. College-ready bodies, college-ready athletes. Let's go. I'll tell you right now, I expect Arkansas to ultimately land Jordan Smith Jr. The bags talk for sure. Duke has pull there. He's got some teammates over there. Yes. Georgetown has his AAU coach on staff. Yeah, sure. But think about what we've just been talking about. John Calipari has been following Jordan Smith Jr. all over the country, and Arkansas has gained a ton of traction. A lot of folks think that they might be in the lead, whatever. He's going to be announcing here in the next couple months. But I'm telling you guys, Cal's approach is resonating in a big way in the high school circles. Not that it wasn't already. You know what I mean? He's the best to ever do it. And he's darn near the last man standing when it comes to actually prioritizing and recruiting high school talent. And not just getting them and recruiting straight over them. You see the results right now with Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. And, you see Jordan Smith Jr. interviewing with folks and saying that, hey, I'm waiting on my decision because I want to see the portal play out. Like, I want to have an opportunity, and I don't want to go in. I'm competing with some fifth-year senior that they bring in when they knew I'm coming in. Everything that this man says, everything that he wants lines up with what John Calipari wants and what Arkansas has to offer. But he's not going to be done there if he gets him. If Jordan Smith Jr. becomes a Razorback, I think the Brandon McCoy thing is probably over with. In fact, since they've really gone all the way in on Jordan Smith Jr., the McCoy smoke has cooled some. Not that Arkansas is not talking to him anymore, but you hear more about Michigan and Miami, some schools like that. But look up all of a sudden, and do you guys see what Tipton, credit to him, is reporting? Arkansas back in the mix with 5-star forward Christian Collins. If you watch this show, you'll remember that name. Was crystal ball to Kentucky before their weird NIL situation turned him off, and now he's wide open again. 6'9", 7-foot wingspan, jumbo wing. 3 can play small ball. 4. If you recall on the show, he was my favorite player this summer. The first 2 sessions of the EYBL was awesome. I fell in love with him watching him. Then he had a really slow finish. Peach Jam week and everything wasn't great. Arkansas cooled on him. We hadn't heard much about it, but he's rolling here in his senior year, and it's coming out of his mouth that Arkansas has been back in touch. Arkansas is talking to him again. Arkansas is recruiting him again. Arkansas is pursuing him again. One to keep an eye on for sure. Dylan Mingo, 6'5" guard, 5-star. This is very interesting. Was down to a group of 4 finalists and was scheduled to announce today, actually. All of a sudden, that commitment gets pushed back, and then you hear Arkansas is a dark horse making up some ground there. Coincidence? Guess we'll find out. 7-foot class of 2027, 5-star big man, Obina Akizi, who the staff has been out to see multiple times in the last few weeks, multiple times throughout the course of their own season. Expected or anticipated that he could eventually reclass into 2026. He'd be a top 10 prospect if he did. And Arkansas is not only recruiting him hard, but they're recruiting him for this upcoming class. Mika's still floating around out there. So, again, to the point that we're making, if these other dudes want to go out and get some guys who've been, twiddling their thumbs in the G League, then that's fine. Good players, professional experience, older, developed. There's going to be a market for that for sure. But if you go look at a 2027 mock draft, for example, like the top 30 at Bleacher Report, it hasn't updated in a little bit, but just pulling it up, Abdou Toure at 29, Christian Collins at 14, Mika at 12, Brandon McCoy at 9, Jordan Smith Jr. at 5, Dylan Mingo at 4, J.J. Andrews at 3. The guys Arkansas are on, future pros, man. All this next level talent out there that Arkansas has either secured or is pursuing. I say put together a lineup of them. Go old school, vintage Coach Cal. You return a couple guys from this roster. You go out and supplement with a couple portal bigs like Cal likes to do, like he's going to need to do for sure. But I'm becoming more and more open to the idea of let's just lean into that youth movement. Let's see if Cal can reach back into his bag and go thump the old heads and make college basketball great again. I think it would be a pretty neat story. And it's something to follow very closely here, especially once the season wraps up and that portal opens and you got all these guys that we just mentioned who are getting in, ready to be in decision-making mode. What's this going to look like for Arkansas? Because I think Cal is the guy who's willing to be patient, willing to wait, willing to prove that he's prioritizing these kids, whereas you think Nate Oates is going to do that? You think Mark Pope is going to wait around, or are they just going to go panic buy in the portal before everybody gets picked off? I think Arkansas is going to be in a better position than people anticipate in landing multiple of these youngsters, and go to war with the youngsters. If they're anything like Acuff and Thomas, I think Arkansas is going to be in pretty good hands, so we'll see. But anyway, it's been an hour. I got to get out of here. I'm tired. Need to get some shut-eye and then get back at it tomorrow. We'll get into a few different things tomorrow. Obviously, we'll get into our position breakdowns for this Arkansas-LSU game, and I got a couple other fun things planned as well. But it has been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot at the Palace. Be safe out there now and through the weekend with this winter storm, and we'll see you guys all in the morning. Have a good one.